Once there was a faithful dog that the woman could leave her baby with it and go out to attend other matters. One day, the woman, as usual, left the baby in the hands of the faithful dog and went out shopping. When she returned, she discovered a total mess. The baby's cot was dismantled, his nappies and clothes torn to shreds with bloodstains all over the bedroom where she had left the child and the dog. All of a sudden, she saw the dog emerging from under the bed. It was covered with blood and licking its mouth as if it had just finished a delicious meal. The woman went angry and assumed that the dog had eaten her baby. Without much thought, she killed the dog. But as she searched for the remains of her child, she found her baby alive, lying on the floor, safely near the bed. Beside it was a body of a snake was turned to pieces in what had been a fierce battle between the snake and dog, which was now dead. But it was too late for her now to make amends. Because of her impatience and anger, she had lost the faithful dog. How often have we misjudged people and torn them to shreds with harsh words and even with physical assault before we have had time to evaluate the situation? A little patience can drastically reduce major, lifelong errors. Think about it. A man returned to his town to find his houses on fire. It was one of the most beautiful houses in the town, and a crowd had gathered helpless against the spreading fire. Despite their efforts, it was clear that nothing could be salvaged. Overwhelmed with sadness, the man's son rushes to him and whispers, "Don't be worried. I sold it yesterday at a very good price. The offer was too good to wait for you. Forgive me." Relieved, the father responds, "Thank God it's not ours now." He becomes a silent watcher, just like the hundreds of onlookers. As he observes, the second son arrives, questioning his father's apparent calmness. "What are you doing? You're smiling, and the house on fire. We've only received the advance amount. The deal may not go through." Tear returned to the father's eyes. His heart races. Then the third son arrives with different news. "The man is a man of his word. I just spoke to him. He said, 'It doesn't matter whether the house is burned or not. It is mine. And I am going to pay the agreed-upon price.'" Joy returns to the family, and they become mere observers once again. The attachment is no longer present. In essence, nothing has changed. It's the feeling of "I am the owner" or "I am not the owner" that makes all the difference. Moral: this story echoes the universal truth. The true happiness often lies in letting go. It was a busy morning at the hospital. The waiting rooms were full of patients. Around 8 a.m., an elderly man entered the waiting room looking at his watch with a visibly worried face. One of the nurses noticed that the man was hanging around tensely. She approached him and called him into the examination room. His condition was not critical at all. Only the stitches from his thumb had to be removed. As the man still looked uneasy, the nurse politely asked him why he was in such a hurry. "I have to get to the sanatorium by 9 a.m. My wife and I always have breakfast together," replied the man. "Is it a big deal if you're a little late getting there?" asked the nurse. The man replied, "My wife has Alzheimer's disease. She hasn't recognized me in 3 years." The nurse looked at the man in amazement. "She doesn't know who you are, yet you go to her sanatorium every morning to have breakfast with her?" The man smiled and said, "She doesn't know who I am, but I know who she is." Moral of the story: true love knows no past tense. This highlights the power of unconditional commitment and the importance of prioritizing loved ones' well-being over external validation. An old man is teaching his grandson about life. "A fight is going on inside me," he said to the boy. "It is a terrible fight, and it is between two wolves. One is evil. He is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego," he continued. "The other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The same fight is going on inside you and inside every other person, too. The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather, "Which wolf will win?" The old man simply replied, "The one you feed." Morale of the story: the internal battle between good and evil within ourselves. The two wolves represent positive and negative qualities, and the key to victory lies in the choices we make. By feeding the wolf of joy, love, and kindness, we nurture a positive and fulfilling life. Every year, Martin's parents took him to his grandmother's house during the summer holidays. At one point, the boy tells his parents, "I'm big enough now. What if I went to Grandma's alone this year?" After a short conversation, the parents agree. In the train station, the father gave Martin a last piece of advice. "Son, if you suddenly feel bad or afraid, then have this with you." He then puts something in his pocket. For the first time, the boy is sitting alone on the train without his parents. He watches the landscape from the window, observing strangers bustling around, making noise, coming and going. The conductor asks him, "Are you traveling alone?" Someone even looks at him sadly. The boy feels uncomfortable and afraid. He lowers his head, curls up in the corner of the seat, tears welling up in his eyes. He remembers that his father put something in his pocket. With trembling hands, he searches for the piece of paper, opens it, and reads, "Son, I'm in the last car." Moral of the story: it's the same in life. We let our children run and trust them, but we will always be in the last car, the strong support system that is always there to provide guidance and comfort when needed. One day, a man decided to travel by ship with his friends. While in the middle of their journey, the boat began to sink. All drowned except this man. He reached the small island. There, he built a straw hut, survived on fruits and herbs. Weeks passed. Despair grew. Each night, he'd light a fire for warmth. One night, he was awakened by an overwhelming heat. It was his straw hut that caught fire. He cried, accusing and blaming God, shouting, "Oh God, what have I done to you to hurt me so? You separated me from my family and friends, and now you let my hut burn. Why are you so hard on me?" But at dawn, a boat landed on island. He ran straight for the captain and asked him, "Captain, how did you get here?" The captain replied, "In the night we saw a fire, and we thought that you used the fire in order for us to find you." The man cried, fell on his knees, and asked God for forgiveness. He got into the boat, went home, and reunited with his family. Moral of the story: God has many ways of solving our problems. Do not curse your God even if you suffer. Keep faith and hope. He will act. Four friends meet 30 years after school. One goes to the toilet, while the other three start to talk about how successful their sons became. Number one says his son studied economics, became a banker, and is so rich he gave his best friend a Ferrari. Number two said his son became a pilot, started his own airline, became so rich he gave his best friend a jet. Number three said his son became an engineer, started his own development company, became so rich he built his best friend a castle. Number four came back to toilet and asks what the buzz is about. They told him they were talking about how successful their sons became and asked him about his son. He said his son is gay and is a stripper at a gay bar. The other three friends said that he must be very disappointed with his son for not becoming successful. "Oh no," said the father. "He is doing very good." Last week was his birthday, and he was given a Ferrari, a jet, and a castle from three of his boyfriends. Moral of the story: success is not a one-size-fits-all suit. Embrace the uniqueness of the individual threads in the fabric of life. Now, if you think this content is good, tag that one friend who needs to see this, and please like, share, and follow.